Good morning, goddammit. Piss and Vinegar Day 91. High intensity cardio and functional training day. But minus the high intensity cardio for the most part because I couldn't do it. My groin, strain that I have was kind of playing up. Not straining or anything, but I could feel it and didn't want to push it and potentially strain it again. So I couldn't do the sprints because sprints are very groin and hip flexor heavy. So I only did like 4 or 5 sprints, and half of them my dog was trying to fucking kill me. So it was kind of mid. And that doesn't matter too much because the sprint is more of a athletic endeavor. Like, sprints are great cardio and they're actually pretty decent hypertrophy gaining stimulus, especially for the glutes and hip flexors. And they're just generally good for function, human growth hormone, etc. Albeit not to the degree that a lot of people think they produce HGH. That's a fallacy. A lot of people think that squats and deadlifts and sprints, these high impact movements, will like give you this insane fucking anabolic like response to testosterone and HGH. No, a slight degree, but nothing of really major benefit. Every percentage counts, sure, but it's not going to be like taking a fucking steroid cycle. So they're good, but because I don't have enough room in my yard, I can't really take them to max capacity. So I can't do the 100, 200 meter, 300 to 100 meter sprints that allow you to go to sort of cardiovascular failure, or maybe not cardiovascular failure because I don't mean a literal heart attack. Wow, my dog again trying to fucking kill me. Good job. Extra hurdle for my cardio, but I don't mean literal fucking cardiovascular failure because that's a heart attack or death. But to the point where you are potentially verging on that area, or if you kept going beyond that, then of course you would die or pass out. Probably just pass out, but to the point where you can't go any longer, otherwise you'll pass out essentially. You can't do that with a 20-meter sprint unless you're like super unfit, just because I don't have enough room. I could keep going back and forth, but then also I want to make every sprint as fast as possible. So because again, it's more of an athletic thing, and I'm trying to work on the technique of it and everything, which, as you can see, is not going that well because my sprinting technique fucking sucks. I run like a retard. But anyway, the sprints aren't so much high intensity. They're more of an athletic thing. And then everything that would follow after that would be high intensity cardio. And I didn't do that today because I did one of them. But between the groin and then when I did one of the movements, I felt super lightheaded because I've already done like a 2-3 hour walk today because I've been delivering flyers for my business, and it's been really hot, so I'm probably dehydrated and just generally a little bit exhausted from that. I was super tired today, so I got really lightheaded and my legs got really shaky when I moved over to the next high intensity cardio movement. So I didn't really do much of that. Hopefully next week it'll be better and I'll be able to really show you guys what I'm planning on doing. There's a few things I'm trying to do. One is increase the cardiovascular health and increase my fitness, especially in the high intensity realm, but also burn excess calories and fat. And also on top of that, I've read a bunch of research papers recently that would heavily imply that if you just do high intensity cardio once or twice a week, you will reap 90% of the benefits, if not the same, or potentially more than if you had have just done, say, the steady state cardio that most people do every day for 45 minutes or whatever it is, like the stationary bike, treadmill, jogging, etc. These mind-numbingly boring bullshit things that take a shit ton of time out of your day. It's akin to volume training, right? Like very much like volume weight training, steady state cardio is the same. And realistically, it doesn't give you a lot of the benefits that high intensity cardio gives you, namely your high intensity cardio, your short burst cardio. You might have really good endurance, like a marathon runner, but one, look at marathon runners' physiques, and two, get a marathon runner to do sprints, and they'll be fucked because they don't have the short intensity sort of anaerobic cardiovascular capacity that, say, a sprinter does. So it's good to have long endurance cardio, but by proxy of getting really fit at high intensity cardio, you will simply become more endurance heavy too. And endurance is very much mental too. Like, a perfect example would be David Goggins. This guy was a fucking 250 pound or 110 kilo, 6'3" giant black dude, Navy SEAL, heavily muscular, and just went, fuck it, I'm gonna run an ultra marathon, 100 miles, and with no training. And the night before he did a heavyweight session, just like a total meathead, but through absolute mental perseverance, he was able to get through it even though he wasn't a fraction as conditioned as these people, it was very evident that most of it is mental. If you're not super unfit, you could probably run an ultra marathon if your mental capacity would allow you. Humans are very endurable. So cardio at its core is just essentially who can go at max capacity for longest. Otherwise, it's very much mental to a different degrees. Obviously, if you're super unfit, you're not going to run an ultra marathon, and you still won't be as fit as an ultra marathon runner. Obviously, if you do high intensity cardio and stuff, because they're very sport specific. But my point is, they're not that much fitter than the average person. It's just that they're kind of insane. It takes an insane person to want to run 100 miles, stay up for days on end, and shit liquid down your leg and fucking start pissing like black liquid after you're done because your kidneys are shutting down, and die very early because it is terrible for you to do that sort of long distance cardio unless you're like a West African. And they look like shit. Marathon runners look like shit. Look at a marathon runner and compare them to a sprinter. Sprinters are fucking jacked. They look like mini bodybuilders. Part of that is obviously genetic predisposition. The sprinter is more likely to be a type 2 muscle fiber individual who can really explode, and the marathon runner is more likely to be more of a type 1 skinny person. But be that as it may, it's very evident in their physiques that one training works better than others, which is just another argument for high intensity training in the weights area. So basically what I'm getting at here is, with cardio, treat it the same as the weights. Do it high intensity, do it infrequently to save time, effort, energy, and get the same, if not better, results by being able to adhere to something much easier. I can't adhere to 45 minutes fucking every single day. That's just boring. It's so boring. And by the exercise science papers, it's very evident that doesn't even necessarily work as good. So today, the whole idea was to do high-intensity cardio. I'm rambling here, but I wasn't able to do it because what was it? I was doing the battle ropes, which you would have seen a minute ago. I got really lightheaded. My legs were shaky as fuck. I drank so much caffeine today. I was in the scorching sun all day, and I already did a 3-hour walk up and down hills, so kind of just wasn't in it. But then I just went on to the function stuff. So now I'm doing my knees over toes stuff, where I just walk backwards with the sled pull. I don't have any knee issues, but prevention is very important. You never know when you're going to get a knee issue rather. So it's best that you just kind of get your knees as strong as possible in order to make sure you never get a knee issue. Especially now that I'm doing these explosive, high torque movements that in sprints, and next week hopefully you'll see me doing really intense like step ups and different things that are very patella tendon heavy, knee heavy. So I want to solidify my knees, and that will allow for a bit more strength and explosiveness. If your tendons and ligaments aren't as strong as the muscles, you'll either limit yourself and not be able to lift the same weights as your muscles can lift, which very well could be the case in my legs case. Or secondly, you will lift the weight that your muscles can lift, but the tendons and ligaments are not ready for that, and bam, pop, off they go, and you're out for 6 months because you fucking tore your ACL or your patella tendon or bursa or whatever the fuck it was. So preemptive strikes in order to make sure nothing bad happens. Luckily, I have no knee issues so far. I have a bunch of other issues, but knees has never really been one of them, thankfully, because knees can be a real cunty one. Doing that, and then I'm working on the glute medius minimus and TFL muscle, TFL I'm pretty sure is actually sort of fascia / tendon, but the TFL is actually a muscle, yes. TFL, which attaches to the side of your knee, which is incredibly important for knee health, because the tendon attachment that attaches to the outside of the knee, if that muscle is not being worked, that tendon and ligaments won't be, the tendons rather, not the ligaments, because ligaments are bone to bone. Tendons won't be strong enough to potentially put up with a situation where you are put into some weird lateral movement situation and your knee pops out. One of the common causes of knee injuries isn't through sort of a forward plane of motion. A lot of people will tear their knees apart from the sides or from behind at the hamstring attachment, all these different areas. So you want to make sure that your knees are solid from all angles, not just the front. It's not just the patella tendon, it's the ACL, MCL, LCL, all the different tendon and ligament attachments that you want to make sure are solid. Because especially if you're like a basketball player or someone that does a lot of sort of lateral movements on the court, or any big lunging movements or big jumping then landing movements, you want to make sure those knees are solid. And I don't do any sports, but I'm just doing these because you never know. I don't want to be out with fucked up knees for 6 months for some unforeseen consequence of, say I'm on a bushwalk and my knee rolls and bam, it pops. Or doesn't, because I've been doing all these different solidifying movements. So yeah, doing these and then the tibialis raises, which allow for your tibialis attachment to make sure your knees are healthy. So you have to think of the knees as a 3D component, not just the front, back, or front and back really is where most people see it. It's sides, above, down, so tibialis, but also quadricep, hamstring, TFL, etc. So make sure you're doing these kind of prehab, pre-striking, as I like to call them, movements. And for aesthetics, the glute medius and minimus are important for having kind of a thicker glute, especially for females. Like a lot of times women think about training the glute maximus, which of course makes sense, but one of the things that makes a women's physiques really aesthetic is also the glute medius, minimus, TFL, hip flexors. Hip flexors are massive. If you can get your hip flexors really big as a female, it'll make your hips much more prominent, and it just generally looks better. Obviously, this is my own sort of bias because I have a certain thing for hips and stuff, or whatever. Other guys might not like that. But if you can get it's not just your quads, your hamstrings, and glutes, females, or women. It's everything. It's hip flexors. It's, there's a lot more that goes into the physique. It's the obliques. I think women should be training all muscles like quads, hamstrings, glutes, but then also abs, lower back, arms, rear delts, etc. Just to have a well-rounded physique. But if you're the kind of what do they call them, like a booty bandit or whatever, where you just want to get your lower body really yoked for your man, or attention whoring on Instagram or whatever it is, make sure you're training your hip flexors and glute medius and all these different things. Sprints and stuff really help. I'm going on a lot of tangents here, but there's just, I suppose, there's little golden tidbits throughout all these videos, and you have to just put up with my sort of schizophrenic ramblings that are all over the place. So yeah, hopefully next week I'll be able to do those high-intensity cardio sessions. I'm actually really keen to do that. I wouldn't want to do it every day, but once a week it's fun. And a lot of it too will be sort of a effect in the sense that it will be a second leg day of sorts. A lot of it is leg heavy. A lot of it's going to failure, of which it will be lung and heart failure, not to actual literal failure, but you understand what I mean. So the quads won't be going to mechanical failure or anything, or the hamstrings, etc. But it'll be extra work to potentially increase my horrendously small legs and general leg aesthetics, glute aesthetics, etc. And also from sort of a capillary aspect, there's a lot of data that shows that high intensity cardio will increase the capillary density within the muscles that are active within said cardio movement. So if you're doing high intensity bike, for example, which is very quad dominant, they've had numerous men on exercise bikes who every day just do high intensity cardio on that bike, and they basically calculate the density of their capillaries, which are the little veins that run throughout your legs. And after 6 weeks, 6 months, whatever it was, I can't exactly cite what it was, but essentially they've increased their capillary density by like 10 to 20%, which will increase your pumps, which will increase your sarcoplasmic density, which will increase your hypertrophy, because these things play into that, and also make you look more vascular. If you have more blood flow in an area, it will heal quicker, it will look fuller, it will pump up better. Perfect example would be arm wrestlers. These guys, even fat arm wrestlers, have like incredibly vascular arms because they're doing all this extremely high frequency, almost cardio heavy in muscular endurance work on table time. Even the fattest fuck arm wrestlers have these super vascular arms, which doesn't make any sense because their body fat percentage is so high. Well, it makes sense from the perspective of if their capillary density is increased, that they'll be more vascular and leaner in that area. The more blood flow in an area, there is more data that will show that there is potential for fat spot reduction, which for years was considered an absolute meme through the late 90s, early 2000s, and even nowadays, it's seemingly debunked that you can't fat spot reduce, but it does stand to reason through exercise science under circumstances that if you have increased blood flow to an area, you could be more vascular and leaner through that area. So obviously if you're a big fat ass, like, it's not going to help tremendously, but an area that has more capillary density will be a more muscular area, a leaner area potentially. So, basically, trying to get back to my original point here, maybe we'll see more leg gains as I increase my capillary density through these very leg dominant high intensity cardio movements that you'll hopefully see next week. Now, in saying this, the way I'm programming it is I'll do a upper body high intensity cardio movement like a battle rope so that my lower body can get a rest from the sprints. And then after that's done, I would go to, say, a step up where I would do really quick step ups to failure, which is mostly leg dominant. And then I would go back to an upper body movement to give my legs a rest temporarily in, say, a sledgehammer slam. And then I would go back to a leg movement like, I don't know, ball slams, which is kind of a combination of the two. But essentially this way, my legs don't just get fried straight away. I go back and forth. So also my upper body will be getting some sort of potential capillary density increase / sarcoplasmic hypertrophy, muscular endurance, working on the type, not really, so I was going to say type 1 muscle fibers, but they're more endurance heavy, and this is high intensity cardio still. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens with this kind of training, if it allows for increased hypertrophy from my other training forms through sarcoplasmic hypertrophy and capillary density increases, which, if you don't know what I'm talking about here, this is all Greek to you, scientific jargon, so be it. But basically, high intensity cardio equates to potentially more gains in the gym. And anytime your heart works better, the better your pumps will be in the gym, the harder you can train, the more fitness you have, the less likely you are to fail cardiovascular or lung wise before the muscles do. Which, you know, if you're doing high intensity with low reps, that's very unlikely to happen, but for some that might be the case. If you're doing really heavy squats to failure, say 10 to 15 reps, you might very well give out in the heart or lungs before your muscles do. So cardio, high intensity cardio could also assist with that. So there's a lot of reasons I'm doing this, but it's also ultimately because I get bored on my day off, so I don't want to have a day off. I'll just do this. Some days I might skip this. This might be my day off some days if I'm feeling really under-recovered or tired or whatever. It'll be more of an optional day, but if I feel like doing it, I'll do it. These are longer videos because there's quite a lot of stuff involved. Plus, I also, a lot of times will do boxing on these days, which will add even more length to it. So I might not fully narrate the entire video every single week on this one, but maybe I will. I've got plenty to talk about. Anyway, see you guys tomorrow for more Piss and Vinegar. Bye-bye.